Hey, the purposes for this video are for entertainment and criticism. Take it, leave it, you do you. This video is not to give you an excuse to harass or bully the user in question, so do not treat it like it is. We do not condone witch hunting or harassment, so don't do it. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Hello everybody, I'm Yuji, and welcome back to Fanfic Friday. Today we are going to actually be talking about chlorine grown roses again. But first, sprites. Today's sprites are made by Cloudy Copia on DeviantArt. Thank you very much for the sprites. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying, but Yuji, you already talked about chlorine grown roses. You read the entire thing in a live stream. Yes, I did. But honestly, because it was a live stream, I'm not very satisfied with how everything went. My thoughts were jumbled and incoherent most of the time because I had no time to actually sit down and think after reading it. Not to mention, I was very uncensored. Very uncensored because it was a live stream. So I decided to dedicate an entire scripted video to my final thoughts on chlorine grown roses. I am going to be rereading some things to help get my point across better, and I'm going to try to go as in-depth as I can, so I hope you guys enjoy. So, for those of you who didn't see those live streams, allow me to fill you in. This is an OC, self-insert fanfic for the anime-free Iwatobi Swim Club, aka Gay Fan Service Swim Boys. This story revolves around the now main character, Azusa Tachibana, and her quest to discover her parents' killer. I think. I don't know, this story and its plot is all over the fucking place. Anyways, let's get started. So the first thing we are going to be talking about is... Now, the first thing I want to mention is sticking to the universe rules when designing a fan character for an established universe. In the first chapter, you say this.
My hair is black with blonde tips worn in a long left side ponytail and another one that's short on the right, and I have green eyes with a little pink heart in them.
And this.
My mother's long black hair, my father had blonde hair, so that's where I got the blonde parts of my hair from.
Now, if this were a universe like Boku no Hero or No Game No Life, I wouldn't mind your character being born with pink hearts in her eyes, or even getting 2 different hair colors because her parents have 2 different hair colors. But let's look at the established universe of Free Iwatobi Swim Club. A universe set in a realistic state, minus, of course, characters being able to be born with maroon and blue hair, which is why I have such an issue with the pink hearts and 2 hair colors. It's not plausible in this particular universe. The hair, I guess I could let you get away with, but the eyes? Yeah, that's just ridiculous. This goes for all the characters with traits like these. Please try to stick to the universe rules when creating a fan character. I don't mind if you break the rules, but without an explanation behind the breaking of the rules, it just comes off as, OMG, look, my character is so special. Just for the sake of the character being a super duper special girl. Oh, can I also just bring up this little tidbit here?
Her house got burned down by a maniac, and her parents died. The black parts of her hair were from the fire. They would be there for the rest of her life.
That's not how hair works. That's all I'm gonna say. Singed hair, it doesn't work like that, especially if it's on the ends of the hair. You can just cut it off! While all of these characters have potential, as they are now, they're abysmal. It seemed like you didn't really take the time to sit down and think about all of these characters. Instead, you just thought of them on the spot and threw them in as you went. They all had cookie-cutter, typical personalities, nothing really original to them. You spent too much time describing the clothing they were wearing and not enough time building up who they were as a person. So we never get a true connection to any of the characters throughout this story. It really just feels like a bad self-insert instead of the good story it could have been. Because you know yourself and the kind of person you are, you didn't take the time to develop your character for your readers at all. And overall, we're left very confused on why your characters are acting certain ways and not caring for them during emotional moments in the plot where we should be caring. Now, this is something that I've seen throughout the entire story, and that's taking canon characters' personalities and just kind of throwing them out the window and replace their personalities with something else to suit your needs for the story.
Hey, just a quick future UG right here. By keeping canon characters in character, I mean, like, if you're not trying to do something specific, like a yandere specific story. That's all I wanted to clarify. Okay, goodbye.
Now, obviously, when you're writing an OC or self-insert story for a fandom, the characters they interact with are immediately going to be thrown out of character because they are interacting with a being that was never there before. But the key to this is keeping the characters as in character as you possibly can. This involves either watching the show a million different times so you can get a decent feel of each character's personalities, or going to the character's wiki page and reading about their personalities. I honestly think it's so fucking pointless to write an OC or self-insert story if you're just going to completely scrap a canon character's personality like that. Like, what's the point? Wouldn't it just be better to write your own story with your own character so you could do whatever you want with the character's personality? A good example of throwing a canon character's personality out the window throughout this entire story is Nagisa, when you turn him into Thugisa. There was also Makoto being an absolute dick for no reason. That's also a good example. So please, try to keep the canon characters as close to their original personalities as humanly possible. Otherwise, just write your own story with your own characters. Like, seriously, what's the point of writing a fan story if you're not going to keep the characters in character? In the very first chapter of this story, you say this in the author's note. It takes place in the first season because I haven't watched the second season yet, so all the second season characters aren't there yet, sorry. So this entire story takes place within season 1 of Free. And I'm going to be completely honest. After reading through this entire story, I think it would be best if this story didn't take place within any of the seasons of Free. Have this story take place after the events of the anime. But if you really must have it take place within the events of the show, then make sure you follow the plot of the show. Obviously, making tweaks is such that your characters can fit into the story, which is not an easy feat, but it can be done well. I read a couple of stories that either include the reader, cause I'm garbage, or an OC into an already established universe, and the writer incorporates them into the story very well. It's possible to do, and it's even possible to go way out of canon and do it well. But you have to actually put time and effort into writing it out and not just writing up a quick thing with no spell check or anything and then throwing it out into the public. It honestly makes it look like you actually didn't give a damn about your work. So basically, quality over quantity. Okay, as stated earlier, this takes place in the first season. Now, obviously, if you watched it and actually liked it, there's a good chance you remember the plot very well. Now, this is probably the most important part of writing a story. Timelines. Start off with episode 1. Write down a timeline of the most important bits of your fanfic and what you want to happen all within the first episode of Free. Don't put too much in there, otherwise things are going to be crowded, but write down the most important parts, like... Okay, you know what, I'm drawing up examples because I can't word and explain for shit. This is the first example I drew up very quickly in MS Paint. As you can see, I wrote Azusa's particular plot in green, and I wrote the Free storyline in blue. And, just something like this. I didn't finish this, obviously, because some things, I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time placing where I would put them. But this right here is what I'm talking about. You don't have to do, exactly this. You could also do this, which honestly would be the easier way. Just so you can get a basic idea from start to finish, and just filling in all those extra little details. Obviously, this takes time to do. It takes a lot of time to do, but the time and effort is worth it. I promise. It makes your story actually really, really good if you just take the time and effort to plan it and write it out. The easiest thing to fix. Having correct spelling in your story, or game, or whatever, is extremely important. Bad spelling can honestly cause a lot of disinterest in anything because it becomes tedious and annoying to read through something with horrendous spelling. I've taken the liberty of copy
and pasting your entire story into Google Docs. And just look, those red underlines, most of them are misspelled words. I say most because it will register certain names as misspelled even if it's not. And Google Docs is a free thing. If you have a Gmail, you have a Google Docs. Just go up to your little search bar thing and go docs.google.com and boom, Google Docs ready for action. And when you're on Google Docs and you finish writing a chapter, scroll all the way to the top. Be sure to click at the very beginning, otherwise it won't register words before your little blinky mouse line. Go to the top where it says Tools, scroll over spelling, and then click Spell Check. And it will start showing you the incorrect words and their possible correct spelling. Be sure you are paying attention to what words it's trying to correct because it will try to correct name spellings. And when that happens, if the name isn't actually misspelled, you click Add to Personal Dictionary and it will no longer register the name as misspelled. But if the name is misspelled and the thing isn't actually giving you the correct spelling, you will have to manually correct it. But yeah, that's how you fix the spelling throughout your story on Google Docs. I'm a bit more lenient with grammar and punctuation because I understand the absolute struggle with those things, but for spelling, there's no fucking excuse to not fix that shit, so fix it. I read through and put your newest fic into Google Docs, and there's still an absolutely ridiculous amount of spelling errors. Now keep in mind, you don't have to go back and fix all these errors right away. What's best to do when writing is just immediately write down a chapter with the plot in mind, of course, but don't worry about spelling or grammar right away. Just get it all out first. Then, after you finish the one chapter, you can either take a quick break, just leave it for a minute, and then come back to read it over and look for spelling and grammar errors. Read over it carefully. Then what Muffin and I like to do is throw it into Google Translate and have the bot read it back to us. That way you'll catch things that you didn't before when reading through it yourself. You're more likely to catch mistakes if you're hearing them than if you're reading it. Because our brains like to fix errors in spelling and grammar almost automatically, so a lot of the times we won't notice. Then, the final stage. Beta readers. They are important for a story. And no, I do not mean go to your friends and ask them to read your story. They're your friends, and unless they're like Muffin, who isn't afraid to tell you straight up if your shit is bad, they're going to be biased as hell. Going back to Google Docs, you could share a link to the document so people can read it and edit it. And if you're not comfortable with having people directly editing your story, then have no fear, because you can change the settings so people who read your doc can only suggest edits and you can approve the edits or deny them. Look, detail in stories is good. It's great, but there is such a thing as over-describing in too much detail. This is a small paragraph from chapter 1.
I read the letter. It was in Japanese, but I know Japanese because my parents are Japanese and they taught me Japanese, so I'm fluent in Japanese. It said, "Dear Azusa, I am your cousin. I heard what happened to your parents, so I am here to help you. In this letter there is a plane ticket to Japan taped to it. I want you to use the ticket and go to Japan and meet me at the airport tomorrow, and I want you to bring the rose with you."
You said Japanese 5 times in the same goddamn sentence. That is crap writing. There are plenty of other ways you could have written that sentence to make it actually sound good. Here's an example I came up with. I read the letter. It was all in Japanese. But that wasn't really an issue, as my parents grew up in Japan and they taught me to read and write in kanji before they passed. That was just a quick example. But it's already 100 times better than saying Japanese 150 different freaking times in one sentence. That's just pure insanity and beyond annoying to read. That, and in nearly every single chapter you write, you full-on explain everyone's outfit. And let me just say, that is the most annoying thing ever. You do not have to explain their outfits every chapter. You really only have to do it when it's an important event like a prom or the wedding, or because this is free, describing their swimsuits for the first time. But that's it. I went back and highlighted every time you described a character's outfit or appearance. This is ridiculous. And these descriptions take up like most of the story. Right now, the entire story has 38,531 words, and if I delete all the unnecessary outfit and character descriptions, it's dropped down to 34,680 words. That's 3,850 words just gone. These descriptions take up space that could have been used to actually develop a character's personality and take up space that could have been used to actually move the plot along. Oh, not to mention, the doc was originally 121 pages and dropped down to 113 after I deleted the unnecessary outfit and character descriptions. Keep the outfit descriptions to a minimum. It is not necessary to describe a character's outfit every time they appear in the story. It takes up space and it's annoying to read. You don't even have to write down what the character is wearing. There are plenty of great books where the character's outfit aren't even really explained once. I had nothing else to call this section, because the things I'm going to talk about are absolute bullshit. My main complaints come from the mental hospital section, mainly Azusa being able to slip out of a straitjacket because she's so skinny. No, that's bullshit. Do you even know what a straitjacket is? Do you even know what one looks like?
It's a garment shaped like a jacket with long sleeves that surpass the tips of the wearer's fingers. Its most typical use is restraining people who may cause harm to themselves or others. Once the wearer slides his or her arms into the sleeves, the person assisting the wearer crosses the sleeves against the chest and ties the ends of the sleeves to the back of the jacket, ensuring the arms are close to the chest with as little movement as possible. The security of a straitjacket depends very much on its size, which should be as small as practicable to be secure. A tight jacket at the chest and armpits will make it difficult for the wearer to pull the arms out of the sleeves. The sleeves of the jacket are sewn shut at the ends, a significant restraint in itself because it restrains the use of the hands. The arms are folded across the front, with the ends of the sleeves wrapping around to fasten or tie behind the back. On some jackets, the sleeve ends are anchored to the garment to allow the fastening or knot to rotate away from the wearer's hands as they move their arms, making it more difficult to undo. Some straitjackets are designed to have the person's arms crossed behind him, her rather than in front to ensure restraint even more. Most jackets feature a crotch strap to prevent wearers from pulling off the jacket. Some bear loops at the front and or sides. The sleeves are threaded through these to prevent the arms from being raised over the head. Friction buckles are used to fasten institutional jackets with webbing or cloth straps because they are difficult to open without a free pair of hands. In stage magic, gimmick jackets, made for magicians who practice escape stunts, omit arm loops, fasten with simpler buckles, and or leave hidden openings in the sleeves.
Straitjackets are made so you cannot break out of them that easily. Straitjackets would not exist if they were that ineffective, you know? Hey, just another quick future UG here regarding this section. Upon further investigation in the Google engine, I found a couple articles talking about escaping from straitjackets, and I found a couple videos on YouTube as well. I think most of them are like fake straitjackets, you know, trick straitjackets like I mentioned at the end of the article there, but I don't know. I still feel like even if you can escape from straitjackets normally, she wouldn't just be able to like easily slip out of them like it's described. I think it'd be a lot more of a struggle. That, and because she was put in a straitjacket in the first place, people would constantly be checking up on her, and if they were checking up on her and saw she got out of the straitjacket, they'd probably throw her in a padded room with a straitjacket on. I don't know. I'm just saying. Oh, another thing regarding the straitjackets. Straitjackets are used on a patient when they could be a serious danger to themselves or others. And for Azusa, it makes sense. The way she ended up there in the first place was nearly beating her friend to death. But you read a few of the other characters as wearing these just because? And no, I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. Maybe in like the really, really, really old days, you know, the days where if a patient annoyed a nurse or if the nurse felt like it, they would throw them in a cold bath and stuff. But this takes place at current times, and I'm almost 100% sure stuff like that doesn't happen as often. Next thing I want to mention is them breaking out of the mental hospital. Now, having looked into it a bit more, people have escaped from mental hospitals, but because they were such a large group, I doubt it would be that fucking easy, but I guess we'll just ignore that. So my problem comes in when they escape the hospital, and months later, no one is looking for them. Like, I don't care how long it's been, there would be cops looking for them, and the hospital probably labeled Azusa as dangerous, so they would have even more reason to look for them. they would be on the news, and the cops would be looking for them, probably for the rest of their lives. Cops would be at the Tachibana's house with search warrants, so they couldn't stay there. They wouldn't be able to go back to school, because I don't think you can just escape from a mental hospital and get away with it. You know why you should really keep your personal life out of your fanfiction, even if it's a self-insert OC? Because you end up with weird inconsistencies. Chapter 31 of Chlorine Grown Roses. The author note goes like this.
Sorry, dating in a long time. I was busy and then Akira decided to be a fucking bitch and insult my OCS and we got in a fight, so now she isn't the beta reader anymore. This is the last chapter she beta read and I changed some stuff in it so it's only half corrected, and if anyone wants to be the beta reader then sorry, but I don't trust anyone to beta read my fanfics anymore. Akira, if you're reading this, I hate you and I unwatched you on DeviantArt, you fucking bitch. You're only jealous because my fanfic is more popular than yours and has more reviews, bitch.
And then you just completely rewrite Akira's character to be this evil, murderous bitch for the next, 3 chapters you keep this up. But then you and Akira made up and become friends again. And 4 chapters of plot is just wasted. Akira's death and betrayal is just forgotten about. And it's like the last few chapters never even existed. And if I remember correctly, Makoto dies and stays dead because Akira killed him! Yeah, look at this! Chapter 35, the author note and the first paragraph.
And good news. Akira-chan and I made up one. She's gonna be my beta again starting next chapter. Lily-chan might help out too with some of the chapters though. Pretend all the shit with Akira killing Makoto never happened because it's not canon anymore. Chlorine Grown Roses Chapter 35. When I woke up again I was at home with the memories of the night before fresh in my mind, but it all felt like a dream to me even still. There was no way that Masahiko Kirusu really saved me from Chiasa was there. It was Saturday and it was 9 in the morning, so I was happy I did have school. I felt depressed, so I decayed to stay in bed and watch Edward Scissorhands with the lights off. Like this, I could still smell the blood in the room from Makoto's dead. He began to crying into my pillow.
This all happened because you insisted on being a petty brat and making your friend's character the villain and then kill her, all because you got into an argument. Azusa, for those of you who don't know, is supposed to be absolutely devastated about the murder of her parents. Which, yeah, totally understandable. Your parents get murdered, unless you absolutely hate them, you're gonna be pretty upset. But I feel like the amount of time she's been mourning her parents and how often she cries, even if she sees another character with the same hair color as her mom, or something is flat out ridiculous. Not to mention she cries over the stupidest shit ever. She's literally the most annoying crybaby character to ever exist. I really didn't think about it until a few days after I read this story, but she reminds me of Amazing Nurse Nanako and how often she whines and cries about everything. If none of you guys know what that anime is, I'll leave a link to a review in the description by Aki Dearest. But seriously, I highlighted every time she cries in the story, and I went back and searched the doc for keywords such as cried. Appears 35 times in the story. I cried, specifically, comes up 27 times in the story. Cry is said 108 times, bawling is 4 times, sobbing is 31 times. And I'm pretty sure I missed some because of how often she misspells everything. It doesn't sound or look as bad when I talk about it like this, but reading through this story is completely different. You wanted to write an emotional character. That's fine, but the way you went about it is all wrong. She cried and felt sorry for herself so often it came off as obnoxious. And as a reader, I felt absolutely no sympathy for Azusa, and I just wanted her to shut up and stop crying because it was annoying. Wanna know what could have worked? So the amount of crying Azusa does actually makes sense. The very beginning of the story, you say Azusa was mourning, locked away in her house for a year. Which makes no sense, because even if she is super rich, she's still a minor and would have to either be put into foster care or go to her next living relative. Which in this case would be Makoto's family. So I think it would have been better if when she went to live with Makoto's family, it's only been maybe a month since the death of her parents. That way the memory of them dying is still really, really fresh in her mind. I know, when I lost my dog Mako, everything made me cry. being home made me cry. My necklace that has his ashes in it made me cry. My stuffed animal dog made me cry. Sometimes I would call one of my foster family's dogs Zeus Mako by mistake. I was completely devastated. So if it's only been a month since her parents died, the amount of crying she does would at least make a bit more sense to me. You know, now that I think about it, it could just be that Azusa is horrible with her emotions. And okay, that's fair. Still think it could have been portrayed much better, but okay.
Personally, I like the it's only been a month scenario better, because it makes a lot more sense.
Oh, and because I mentioned him and now I'm sad, here's a picture of my dog Mako. He was the best boy. Okay, one last thing before we move on. I've noticed that basically all the OCs have had death in their backstories, whether that be the death of their parents or like a close friend, and like, why? Don't get me wrong, I love destroying my characters' lives and making them miserable. But to have so many characters in the same story have tragic parental death backstories, I don't know, it just seems a bit weird to me, especially when their backstories were just explained out of nowhere. I don't know, it just seemed a little weird to me. Hey, just another quick future UG here. Giving all of your characters in your story tragic, like, backstories isn't a bad thing by any means. It's just, when reading through this, it felt like the characters were given dead parents just for the sake of giving them dead parents to relate to Azusa more, and I would like it if the characters had a little bit more variety in their tragic backstories, not just dead parents. You know what I'm saying? This probably doesn't make any sense, but you know what? We're gonna roll with it. Okay, back to past UG. In this story, there is a few homosexual couples and a few mentions of homosexual relationships throughout the story. Now normally, this wouldn't be a problem, but the way she talks about these couples, in all honesty, it comes off like she's just treating homosexual men as mere objects for her enjoyment. The first time I read these few lines, they did make me mad. They still do upset me a bit. I don't know if I'm overreacting or not, but I'm going to have a few lines that I found from the story read.
Remembered that Ko thinks Makoto and Haru are gay for each other, so I hoped they confessed their feelings to each other and made out. Lol, I'm such a pervy fangirl, but I don't think there's anything wrong with homo or anything, I just like Yaoi X3. Hinami's friends were talking to each other. Yami flipped his hair sexily and made Shatter and Conchita blush. I blushed too, because Yami is hot and I like Yaoi. By the way, Shatter and Yami are gay and it's so kawaii. Homophones get out. Luna, Esther, and Hitomi were having a conversation about their fanfictions. I joined in. Mikami X Light is kawaii than LX Light, said Luna. No, LX Light is hotter, said Esther. I agree with Luna, I said. I drew fan art of LX Light, so it's hotter than Mikami X Light, said Hitomi. Then, she pulled a skethic book out of her bag and showed us her Death Note Yoi. It was hot and it was amazing. I didn't know Hitomi could draw so good. We looked at the sexy yaoi for a few minutes. Shut up, Yami said, sternly. I'll do everything I can to protect Shatter from that murder, and if it takes stopping you, then I will. I have to protect him, no matter what. I wanted to fangirl at the ship, but I was too pissed. Luna was cosplaying as Misa from Death Note, and it looked really cool. I hate Misa because she gets in the way of Ellen Light's perfect yoi, but she has an awesome design.
Every time she mentions homosexuality or her homosexual couple, Yami and Shatter, somewhere in the sentence or paragraph it says something along the lines of, OMG, gay guys are so hot. Lol, I'm such a pervy fangirl. Obviously that exact line wasn't said, but every time I saw anything that said fangirl or yaoi, that was all I could think about or hear. Not to mention, she only writes in male homosexual couples, and to put the nice little cherry on top, a few people started shipping Azusa and Akira as a couple because they thought it was cute. And when Azusa, yes, I'm calling the creator Azusa because it's blatantly obvious, her character is a self-insert, so she gets to ship herself with Rein, found out, oh, holy shit, was she fucking pissed.
Akira and Azusa are not lesbians, so stop it. This isn't Yuri, I'm not a Yuri fangirl. They are straight. Azusa loves Haru and Rin, and Akira loves Nagisa. Character critique central. You stupid homophobic idiot, you can't turn gay straight. Gays are born gay like straights are born straight. That's why Susa and Akira are straight and not lesbians, because they were born like that.
In one of the later chapters in the author's note, it says this.
Okay, since it's apparently homophobic to have gay characters in my fanfic, I'll tone Yami and Shatter down a bit, okay? But you can stop people from being affectionate in public, but you can't stop true love, you fucking homophobes.
Which made me realize she doesn't even understand why people were upset about the portrayal of Yami and Shatter. Probably her other mentions of homosexual relationships as well. No, it is not homophobic to have a gay relationship in your story. But keep in mind, we are not objects for your enjoyment. Like I said earlier, every time you even mention a gay relationship, you go, lol, I'm such a pervy fangirl, yaoi is so hot. It's written more like a fetish than two people in an actual relationship. I went off to find an article or something on how to write a homosexual relationship and do it well, and I ran across this.
If I were to include a homosexual relationship in a story I'm writing, I try to make a point of not portraying it differently to any other relationship in the story. I'd try and focus on that it's a relationship between two individuals, not that it's a homosexual relationship between two individuals of the same gender.
So just write these characters like they are people and not like they're only objects? Oh god, now that I think about it, you're a fucking Fujoshi, aren't you? This is really something you should just completely keep out of fanfiction. Always. It completely ruins the flow of the story, and honestly, a lot of the times, it's just obnoxious to see. The only time I could see the use of emojis in a fanfic being necessary is when you're writing out, like, the text messages between two or more characters. But other than that, leave the emojis out of the story. As for the author's notes, those should be limited to the beginning and the end of the story, but never smack dead in the middle. Like I said, it ruins the flow of the story. We could be, like, totally invested in reading this, and, like, we're really interested. Suddenly, a fucking author's note comes out of nowhere, and it just completely breaks our immersion. It's not good. Don't do that. Honestly, this story and its characters are salvageable. This could be a really amazing story without cutting a lot out. There are things that I think you could cut out completely because in the grand scheme of the story, they don't make sense and it just makes the plot even more confusing or it doesn't actually contribute to anything. Makoto's death, that one girl having magic, the proposal at the end, the Makoto Haru thing, then Makoto being a dick to Azusa for no reason. That whole thing that happened in chapter 42 and 43, I think, the police academy thing that went down, and maybe the hospital arc. I'm still deciding on if that could actually hold the place or not. And I do honestly think everything else could stay. The plot would need to be rearranged a bit for everything to flow a bit better than before. And yes, even the whole best friend betrayal thing could stay. Obviously needs to be written so it's not just a bunch of petty bullshit. So it could go like this. Azusa and Akira get into a fight about something. Akira is pissed and chooses to start helping Masahiko. Azusa finds out, is angry and devastated that her friend would do this. More plot stuff happens. Akira starts to realize what she did was wrong and horrible. Redemption arc for Akira. Akira and Azusa are friends again. That's just a very, very, very basic rundown. But hey, it could go something like that in order for everything to work better. Don't be afraid to actually write out the story and not just give us a basic rundown like you did. Make the story 100 chapters if you have to. Just write it out. I'm leaving links in the description to writing tips, a link to a journal I made to suggest things to people. Why am I linking this, you ask? Remember how I mentioned earlier in this video I read stories that twist the plot of a canon story with OC or X readers and do it really well? Yeah, those are all listed in that journal, and you can go read them if you want. My absolute favorites are Monstrous Hero, Valiant, and Given Chant. Go read them. They're amazing. But you know, at the very end of the day, I don't care what you do with your stories. I just made this video because I wasn't satisfied with how the live streams ended. It's your story, and I can't make you do jack shit with them. But hey, if you ever decide you want to improve your writing skills and don't know where to start, this video and the links in the description are always there for you. I may also be willing to help edit. As an aspiring writer myself, I need all the practice I can get. But anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you would like me to do more videos like this, where I read out a fanfic in a live stream and then just make an entire video dedicated to final thoughts, let me know. It takes me a while to write these scripts, but you know, I enjoy it. But anyways, guys, Don't forget to check out our Patreon and other social media sites linked down in the description below. If you would like to make a request, please either watch the video or read the post also linked down in the description. The same goes for if you want to make us talk sprites. I'm Yuji, and we are Constructive Criticism. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!